Welcome to a brand new episode of TVGP's Critical Misses. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Moonpier.
Hello.
We're here for 1978's War of the World, fully titled here Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds, which is a double album. We said it was going to be a multimedia season here. We definitely weren't kidding here.
Yeah, if you don't listen to the production episodes, you really should.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this one. I really just want to turn the mic over to Moon here. Moon, you're the one that suggested this one for this season as kind of something that maybe some people might not know about or maybe have missed. And I think maybe you have a sort of personal connection to it. So why don't you explain to us a little bit about this album?
Yeah, so when I haven't looked up anything about it since remembering this thing exists, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. Because I have memory hold this thing so hard, like there's only two or three things I know from this.
Okay.
Um and one of the things with it was like when I was in infant school, I think it is, infants or primary school, so like middle school or lower for the Americans out here.
Okay.
Um, my grandmother worked as a cleaner for the school, so when the school closed down, she would clean the school, and every Friday I would stay at my grandmother's house.
Mm.
Um, so that left me sitting around school after everyone had left, essentially, with not a lot to do.
Mm.
One of the things we had was headphones and albums. I cannot remember if it was a record or a cassette. It's that kind of
Sure.
situation.
It's that time of
Uh,
like it probably wasn't an 8 track because it's too long for an
no.
8 track. It was most
Uh-huh.
likely a cassette, but like it's definitely an
Yeah,
early
but
era
also,
for that.
public schools in England, which is different from public schools here. It's essentially the flip reverse it kind of situation.
Mm.
So not privately funded, so publicly funded. So it's like, okay, I don't know if it was a donation. I don't know if it was just bought from
Sure.
the historical perspective.
Did your teacher
But I
really
used to,
like the album maybe and left it in the classroom?
possibly yes, or
Yeah.
like in the little media area that we had, which is where
Right.
I first played Qbert as well on the
Oh, nice.
Amstrad for the record.
Yep.
Um, like it was one of those kind of situations. So I used to just sit there and listen to this thing on repeat when I was like 8 or 9,
Oh, wow.
essentially.
Okay. So like a formative album for you.
Yes, but weirdly, like before those things start to stick in your head, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
too early in my age to remember it, but what brought this up in my attention was someone posted a clip from the YouTube rip of this, I believe it was, like the live performance,
Mm-hmm.
and it was literally out on one of the songs that I knew, and I was like, "Oh, that's where that song came
Wait a
from."
minute. I know that one.
Wow, I didn't realize that that was associated with War of the Worlds.
Right. Because you were young enough to like remember the shape of the thing, but not like, okay, it's a War of the Worlds. It
Yes,
has this many songs. It does this thing with the story. You're just like, I don't know, man. I like this album. I like how it sounds.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's two songs on it that I can literally quote one of the two lines that have stuck in my head.
Mm.
I'm not going to mention them out loud because I don't want any spoilers going in here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those weird things that, like, when it jumped out of me, we were already talking about the last season's War of the Worlds,
Right.
and that's when hearing this kicked me into the overdrive mode of like, oh, we should do War of the Worlds,
Right.
which is kind of where this whole season came from. It was like, okay, we do that one, and then we do this in reverse order,
Right.
and go back in time instead of forwards in time like we normally do. So it's one of those things that like it's definitely on the edge of my conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm aware of it. I cannot remember a thing about it. I'm very interested because it's from what did you say, the 80s?
78. Well, it's interesting
Okay.
because, and I'm curious once we get into this, because there's three versions of this album. We're going to completely discard the most recent version of it, which came out in 2012, I think it was. It's like a reimagining of this album with like updated instruments and stuff. That's not what we're after. What I'm really interested in is the original album came out in 1978. It's a double LP or double CD. I can't even imagine how many cassettes it would have been. I'm assuming two. Um, but there was a album that was released 3 years later in 1981 called Highlights from Jeff Wayne's musical version of The World of Worlds. And that, from what I understand from reading a quick blurb, was basically he took out all of the speaking parts, the like actors play.
The narration part
Yeah,
kind of
like they're,
situation.
yeah, people are it's almost like, from what I understand going into this, and again, we try to go into this as unknowledgeable as possible. um is it seems to be a concept performance album plus multiple actor audiobook narration thing that kind of blends together. So I'm kind of curious to see, did you listen to
Well,
this
I
original
bet you I
version?
listened to the highlight version. I bet
Right.
you it's because it sounds like the highlight version is literally just releasing the soundtrack to Les Mis, and you get like 15 songs or whatever it is, and none of the rest of it.
Yeah.
That sounds like what this is, and I bet you it was that. I bet you
Right.
I was listening to the highlights version, which is basically just the album release of it rather than the full story, essentially.
It looks like the highlights version was 9 tracks, as opposed to, I think it's like 18 tracks on the full one, because it has like the full narration
Mhm.
and the songs. It seems like the highlight is largely just, here's the songs. Like if you're looking for
Yes.
just quote unquote just the music, here's what this is. So I'm kind of curious, once we get into it, how much of the original album did you experience growing up, or was it just the
Mhm.
highlights version, which would make sense. Us as sort of like, yeah, I just want the music, man. I don't want to listen to whatever the rest of this is gonna be.
Yes, I'm very curious now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So if
it,
anyone's
it-
listening at home, we're gonna be listening to the original 1978 one, not the highlights from, and not whatever the
mhm.
kind of most recent one is, because like it always goes with albums of this era, they were typically preserved very well. So there's a lot of like, oh well, we've remastered it 5 times in the intervening years. There's some new technology we've done. We've done a reimagined version, and some famous singers and famous guitarists have played this album and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So we want to try and experience the original version here, if
Well, I
possible.
couldn't tell you about one of the songs that I know,
Okay.
but I can tell you the second song that I know is definitely on the highlights listing
Okay.
because I know that song by name.
Okay. Do you know which one it is?
I do, but I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. I was just gonna ask if it's Forever Autumn, because that seems to be the quote unquote
It is.
lead single from this.
It's that is the song. That is the second of the two songs that I know.
Okay. Do you, going into this, I have never heard of this before, and I get the impression that um it it found some popularity in England. Do you have a good impression of just how big this album was?
Well, the album, no, but Forever Autumn itself hit number 5 on the charts,
Wow.
on the
Okay.
UK
So
charts, which
very
that's
popular.
not an easy thing to do.
Wow. Okay. So at the very least, people probably of
If
a
you're like if you're in the UK listening to this,
right.
you probably heard the two words Forever Autumn and like, why is that so familiar?
Right. It's probably one of those songs you could like hear the chorus of, and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I've heard that. I've heard that a couple of times. Okay, that's
Yes.
interesting. Um, I'm kind of curious to get into this as someone who has No, as someone who has like a kind of burgeoning appreciation for War of the Worlds, and I, on its surface, I love the idea of someone sitting down being like, I love War of the Worlds, and I'm a musician. I'm gonna make a rock opera based on War of the Worlds. It's like, okay, like,
I mean, it feels very of the time. Like it
yes,
feels very experimental, which is
mm-hmm.
super. Like I'm trying to remember. I don't know the band, but whatever the band is that Christopher Lee did the vocals for, like that's how it feels.
Oh,
Like
mm-hmm.
they're like, yeah, let's just tell a story and have Christopher Lee come in and do the
Yeah, who
vocals for
was
it
that?
because why, like why not, kind of thing. Like it's not something you really get a lot of. Is like, hey, let's turn this book into a CD essentially,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
an album, an LP in those days. By the way, if you're very young and listening to this, LPs are the records that you see those
Yes,
funky advertisements for these days.
long
That's what they are,
plays.
the vinyls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Charlemagne seems to be the artist that had Christopher Lee as uh,
The
the
singer
this
for
yeah the vocal. This album I'm looking at is Charlemagne by the Sword and the Cross, which
uh-huh.
a lot of these tracks have an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So I'm a sucker for a band that's like, look, this song has a title and has multiple movements in it. I'm like, okay, well,
Uh-huh.
all right, here we go. Let's try this out. I'm a sucker for
Hey,
this.
Tool has done a part one, part two.
Mm-hmm.
Slipknot has done part one, part two, and invariably, I always love those songs.
Yep. So yeah, I'm with you. It feels like a late '70s, early '80s thing to be like, I have a concept album that's out there. It's like, yep,
Mhm.
okay, let's do it, man. Sure. Um, so I'm going in completely blind to this, and really
Yeah, I'm
excited
like
to.
squinting because like it's like I've seen this, I just don't know how much I've seen of this kind of
Well,
thing.
and I'm really curious to hear from you of like how much you remember, like how much is kind of clearing the cobwebs from that time of your life of like, oh my god, I remember this, or I remember this like guitar solo, I remember this chorus that they repeat for like 30 seconds, but I don't
Mhm.
remember, large swaths of them, but I kind of remember this album or this moment in time or the smell of the school or this sort of thing. Like how much of your
Yes.
life is combined with this album? It'll be interesting.
Well, it's funny because like before I came over to America, I actually went to that school before I left, and it's like the shit. If you've never done it, like you should try and see if you're listening to this, you should try and see if you can go back to like your old like middle school, essentially
Yes.
your juniors, infants, middle school,
Yep.
because you will walk in the door and you will remember it if it's similar,
Yeah.
but everything is so slanted
Yep.
because you're just like, I used to fit in these chairs. Are you serious?
All
Like,
these lockers are so tiny. What's happening here? How did I
huh?
fit in here? I was 10.
It's a strange thing.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Well,
I don't know. I'm looking forward to this.
yeah.
It is worth mentioning
Mm,
for the next two, we agreed we're not going to do pre
correct.
parts on that, just so the listeners are aware.
Yeah.
We're just
So
going to dive straight in.
yeah, so for the next episode, you can probably figure out the next two, but if you're looking to, we'll do a bit of an intro for the next ones, but this will be the last episode for this season that we do this kind of before we go into the thing intro. So keep that in mind. All right.
Yep.
On that note, let's go listen to the album.
Yep.
All right, we're back. We're back from listening to the surprisingly lengthy double album here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't. Well, so we were talking about this before. We were recording this, saying like, boy, usually when we go through an album, we go for a track by track breakdown. with this, I mean, that would be possible. I think we'd probably be here for about 4 hours. So we're just gonna kind of
Uh-huh.
do an album as a whole, coverage, recap, review, whatever you want to call it. We'll do
A
that.
vibe check.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I am happy though that it seems to be all of these adaptations of War of the Worlds do all start with the same quote, like that first
The
paragraph of the
narration.
book. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's nice to see that. I think one thing I was worried about going backwards in time, towards the beginning of the War of the Worlds. That sounded really weird. Um,
Hey, it's happening as we speak, bro. So,
That's right.
You know,
but I was
it's
worried
regular.
that we maybe wouldn't get a full picture of the impact of the original novel. And I think
Mhm.
that
But I think that impact comes next episode, if I'm completely honest. Like,
for
I think
sure,
that
yeah. But like I'm happy to see that in a lot of these, that kind of like first paragraph of the book is repeated, and then
Mhm.
some of the end of the book of like, the smallest things on Earth are what defeated these Martian invaders. Um, I like that we get that kind of the book ends are steady through all of these works.
Yes.
And big props to the narrator on this one,
Yes.
who does most of
Richard
the heavy
something,
lifting.
I forgot his name already.
I think it's
Hold on.
Richard Burton, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
I
Richard Burton
believe
is
it
the
is,
narrator.
yes.
Um,
Guy's got a voice designed for radio.
uh huh.
Speaking as somebody who has a face designed for radio, like that guy
Got him.
that guy has a voice for radio. Like
Uh,
it is so good.
Something I found out when I was looking at the other versions of this album, because there's like, we'll get into the highlights here in a little bit. There's like a new version that came out in 2009. There's the Next Generation that came out eventually. Next Generation version of this album, it's like largely re-recorded, and there seems to be some controversy around that version has too many synths. Whatever, I don't care. The narrator on that version
Wait,
is Liam.
hold on.
Yeah,
It has too many synths. What, and not enough pan pipes and theremins? We'll get there. We'll get there.
apparently, yeah.
We'll get there.
The narrator for the Next Generation, I've listened to a little bit of that, is Liam Neeson. And I was like, "Yep, perfect."
Oh, that's a good choice too.
It's a
Oh,
really good choice, man. Hearing him
I
on
also
that
love,
album,
I also
real good.
I love the fact that it's a classic British and English novel,
Yeah,
and the two narrators are a Welshman and an Irishman.
that's
Good
right.
on you. Fight the
right.
power.
Yep. Um, I think one of my favorite parts of this, and I think the through line for this on the album is you hear the term rock opera thrown around a lot. And I think
Yes.
nowadays, sort of insultingly, like, oh, okay, you're going to go make a rock opera, huh? Like, go
I
see.
mean, I literally went to a concert a couple of weeks ago from the Rock Orchestra, so you know.
Right. Like, go see Forgetting Sarah Marshall for the best rock opera. But I feel like this is one of the few albums that I've listened to that are rock operas where I'm like, oh, like you kind of get the concept, the core concept of it. Like the first track is largely the motifs you're going to hear through the rest of the album, like you would if you're going to see
Yes.
a musical or an opera or something. You have that like dun 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 doodaloo doodaloo dun 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 like that, and I'm like, oh, that's sick. I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna hear more of that. All right, let's go.
And I'm not gonna lie, that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I've definitely heard this before.
Oh yeah,
Because that motif has been ingrained in my head since I was a child.
sure.
Like
I don't.
specifically those two bits, the bits that we just did, those two sections
Yep.
is like incredible.
And I
And I'm not
think
going to put pressure on you in the editing and say, put it right here,
that's
Boston,
right.
put it right
That's
here.
right. And I think that's something that this album really nails, is that combination of an orchestra and like strings and woodwinds and everything that makes an orchestra's performance so strong, and pairing that with the quote unquote more modern stuff. Like you're getting guitars, you're getting pan flutes and theremin, and you're getting synthesizers. And I think throughout the album, more often than not, I think this does a really good job of marrying those two things really well in a way that not a lot
Yes.
of performances do.
And like, at least now I know where my love of the theremin comes from.
Right.
Like, because, like, most people hear theremin and think, oh, Star Trek. And you are correct. Star Trek used the theremin.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Doctor Who fan, which heavily used the theremin, for its title sequence. But it's like, no, I know it because of this. This is where I learned it.
Right.
And I'm very curious because at the time I was listening to this as a child, I was also listening to a lot of panpipe albums.
Sure.
Like, like before we had, cool beats to chill and vibe to kind of
Right.
playlists. We had albums that was like, hey, this is a bunch of songs done in panpipes, and
Yep.
this is whale music for the soul kind of thing.
The
And it's
album
like I
cover
was
was like a pastoral field, and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna chill
yes.
to this album. All right, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. And like I was listening to a lot of panpipes when I was a kid. And I'm very curious now, is this the reason why? Because is this where I first got the ear
Right.
for the panpipe sound? Being
Right.
like, ooh, this tickles my brain in a positive way.
Right. So, speaking of listening to it as a kid, is the highlights, answering the question we asked in the beginning, is the highlights version
100%
what
the
you listen to?
highlights
Oh, okay.
is the one too, because I do not remember 99.999% of the narration,
Okay.
which means it was probably the highlights version is the one that I heard.
Right.
Which is, it's both a shame and a positive because I think like, I mean, you said yourself this is a double album, which technically in those days had 4 sides,
Right.
like album A 1 2 B 1 2.
Yep.
I think compressed down into the highlights version, I think it's actually really really solid. Ow, sorry, I just got a cat jump on my lap. Like I think it is a solid like little album. Like when it's broken down into like the 3-4 minute things, I think it's a genuinely great album.
Right.
But I do think it loses a lot of the story nature of it in taking out all of the narration and the actual story parts kind
Right.
of thing.
And that's what's so interesting to me about this album is I feel like it's actually a really good Cliff's Notes, or like if you're a little younger than us, Spark Notes
Yes.
of the album. Like, in listening to this, I was like, there's only one scene that I feel like should have been a little bit longer. I'll get to that in a minute. But I felt like listening to this, I was like, man, if you didn't want to listen to the radio play, if you didn't want to read the book, but you wanted to get a little bit closer to the book than the movies or the TV show or anything else we've watched, certainly don't watch the 2025 movie again. I feel like this is actually a really good adaptation of it that hits the high points, hits all the marks you want to hear, but moves through it in a fast enough clip of like, yeah, you got the book in here, but you managed to
You
distill
also
it
got some
down.
stick music too.
Yeah, like, and you got a sick soundtrack to it as well. The only thing,
Like I think the funny thing for me is like the really like weird thing for me is like two points here. Number one, Phantom of the Opera, correctly so. I hate Andrew Lloyd Webber, but correctly so, gets a lot of positive praise for its ingenious mix of classical music with modern instruments at the time.
yeah,
We talked about that when we talked about it on this show.
yep,
Like the very start of that hits with like the orchestra and the
The
piano
organ.
with the big tubes.
yeah,
Thank you. It hits with that, and then it brings in like electric guitar, and it's very extremely well done. I think this did it first because I think this is a phenomenal mix of the classical music, the classical instruments mixed with modern sensibilities for the time. So like
Yeah,
it's very disco, it's very rock, it's got the
very.
electric guitar mixed with the the theremin and everything else.
There's so many
But
synths in
also,
here. Like it's half a Yes
yes,
album.
yes. And the second point is like I would argue that this is where World War Z's audiobook got its idea from.
Oh,
Because this is
interesting.
essentially an abridged audiobook with an extended production value put on top of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, because it other than the narrator, there are a whole cast of characters in here that it is
Mm-hmm.
like a performance version of the book with orchestra and then squeal, got some electric guitar and a synth coming in. You're like, oh, that's sick. The aliens are coming
Yes.
down. Squeal.
And like the different sound effects and everything
Yeah.
else, like it's like, uh-huh.
Yeah, like the
Like
aliens have a
it's
sound effect, like a synth-based sound effect, which I think is really interesting. Um,
and the really discordant note for the part of the story where they're dying essentially.
yep.
Like,
My only complaint about this adaptation is I feel like the scene with the curate in the basement after they get buried under the house,
yes.
the narrator knocking out the curate is a large part of the book. And I feel like in this,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like conk. There's like someone hits a coconut sound, and then the aliens are
Yes.
dragging him
It
off.
doesn't even sound like a coconut. It sounded like a slap to me. And I was like, well, did he just slap him to shut him up and stop the panic? No, it turns out he just flat out knocked him out.
Yeah, so it's like to me that's a fairly large part of the book, but
Mm-hmm.
it sort of falls a little flat in this of like it's supposed to be this thing that um we'll touch on it in a future episode. But it's I think to me it's the ultimate expression of the author's frustration about the religious class in
Yes.
England at the time of like this kind of forced helplessness and being like, well, I don't need to do anything because God's going to do something about it later. It's like, no, I need you to actually take care of us. I need you to do something. Otherwise, the aliens that are
Mm-hmm.
literally outside are going to murder us. Also, stop like crying and eating all of our food. And I feel like so much of that was distilled down in this book in a weird way. And then, like, you have a 17-minute long song about the artilleryman's future plans for building a new
Yeah.
city under
Basically build
London.
civilization underwater, underground, and then rise up from underneath kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that maybe that feels a little bit unbalanced, but I,
I
I,
mean,
I get it.
I will say though, I do like that track though because like the musical side of it carries the hope of the artilleryman's dream,
Hmm.
and right at the end, like the music just dies, and it's like, yeah, this is a bad dream, bro.
Yep.
Like maybe this is not something you should be thinking about.
I think that's my only the Brave New World track is like one of the few notes I made about this album. That's the one vocal performance that I feel like doesn't really click with me. I like that they went
Hmm.
for it. The like all over again delivery where again like rises very high and very sharply.
Yes.
Um I part of the reason why I like these for once this is not an insult. These like navel gazy rock opera albums is they're going to go for it in a weird way. And that's the weird
Yes.
performance in this one. And I don't think it works for me, but I appreciate that they went all the way for it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, 100% the same.
yeah.
We talked about it a fair bit in the first half. What did you think of Forever Autumn? The
Oh
whole
man,
arriving in London and the house is destroyed, and like this
what
song
a
kicks in.
what a banger of a track, man. Like that came on, I was
Uh-huh.
like and I was kind of like I wasn't paying attention to the track list when I was listening to cuz I was trying to treat it like
Immerse yourself.
you would be putting a vinyl on the turntable and just playing it and like not worrying
Yes.
about like 3 more minutes until Forever Autumn. But that track came on, I was like, oh, ooh, all right, oh, we got a track here, and I looked at it, and I was like, now I know why it was a big hit. it feels it feels like a song that would have been a big hit in the late 70s. Like it fits
Yes.
perfectly in that era of like, yeah, this like almost pastoral kind of British sensibility in the late 70s for this style of music. That would have hit
Hmm.
really hard on the radio.
Like it, I think it also fits. I like the fact that like because of when the book is written, it also feels Tolkien-esque
Yes.
in the description of like the fields and the weather changing and the seasons and everything like that.
Yep.
It's one of my biggest issues with Tolkien is he'll describe a war in 2 sentences and then spend 3 chapters talking about a tree essentially.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not talking about tree beard, I'm talking about an actual tree.
Yeah.
Like that's my biggest issue with Tolkien.
Right.
But it's like this song feels like it when you think of England and you're not thinking of London, that's what it makes me feel like. It makes me feel like, yeah, like you said, the rural like pastures, like a house on a hill overlooking a field kind of
Right. The
thing.
stone
And
fence,
it's
the
like,
stone walls, like the
yes,
stereotypical kind of prototypical British countryside.
yes.
Yeah.
I feel like it embodies that vibe so well, but also at the same time, it's legitimately a heartbreaking song.
Yeah. Yeah. Um I'm trying to think if it's kind of tough. Normally I'd try and come in here and say like, "Oh, I really loved this track and I really love these like combination of tracks together." But like you said at the beginning, all of it
It's one
blends together
contiguous thing.
so much. Like I think one of the most interesting things is at the end of Thunderchild that wraps out the first record. So like the second
I
side
love
of the
that
first
song too,
record.
by the way.
The song's great, but like that song fades out in an interesting way, and then the next one, the Redweed Part One, fades in as this kind of like you have genuinely switched between records sort of way that
Yes.
I thought was interesting. But beyond that, the vast majority of it is just flowing incredibly well throughout the whole thing.
Out of curiosity, do you know what an ironclad is? Because I know they call out the Thunderchild as an ironclad. I'm very curious if you know what an ironclad is.
I was figuring it that it's a like a class of warship.
Yes, it's basically a prototypical battleship of today,
Mm.
whereas basically a ship, the reason it's called an ironclad is because it has iron armor all around the outside edges of it.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically think of like a Pirates of the Caribbean style ship, except it's got iron armor around it.
Right.
And it's steam powered rather than being like wind powered. So it did the whole thing of spewing smoke out the back of it as it
That's
was
cool.
going to.
Man. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about this is the kind of two-part epilogue at the end, especially the second part with the
Hmm.
like NASA phone like radio phone call
Yes.
part. Um I thought that was like an interesting little coda to the album of the thing that I think most some of these works pose are we have defeated the Martians through like no act of our own, just through the environment
No,
of
through
Earth.
pure luck.
Yeah.
Yes.
But does that mean that we have finished them forever, or is it just a matter of time until they return?
Yes.
And I like that this album poses that question and then seemingly answers it at the end as well of like, yeah, I don't think this was the last time we saw them overall.
Yeah. Did you catch the reference like so they've made a couple of references in like in the media we've covered so far, which is interesting going backwards,
Mm-hmm.
but he specifically calls out in the narrated version of The Eve of the War, which is like the very first track,
Mm-hmm.
that the I can never remember his name, begins with an O and it's a Z, a Zempic, the astronomer.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up here. Hold on.
He he points out that the chances of anything happening, like these fire things coming out of Mars, coming to Earth, is 1,000,000 to 1, and that becomes like the motif of that first track
Yep.
is
1,000,001, but
that
still
sort.
they come.
Yes,
Yeah.
that line has also been ingrained in my brain since I was a child, but it was, and I'm assuming that line is also in the novel based on how this is presented.
Hmm.
But the fact that Robert Carlyle's version of that character says, yeah, it's probably about 1,000,000 to 1, I'd say,
Yep.
in the shorts, the mini series that we did. As like when he said that line, I smiled a little bit to myself because I knew that song was coming up, and I was like, yeah, it's probably from the book, but that line is stuck in my head because of this song.
Yeah. Ogilvy. Ogilvy is
There we go.
There we are. Trying to remember his non-Ozempic name. Ogilvy.
Yes. um yeah, like that, as soon as that line, like that song came on, like again, as soon as I heard the first track, I was like, yeah, this is it.
Hmm.
This is the stuff. I know these riffs, I know these tunes, I know the lines that's going to be said. um it was one of the things, it took all my effort when we covered the mini series to not say, hey, pay attention to that 1,000,000 to 1
Right.
line. I'm just saying it's going to be important later kind of situation.
So how did you feel coming back to this album, especially in this, greatly expanded version over the highlights version after so long?
Honestly, I really liked it
Hmm.
because like we said, it's like it's basically one contiguous song that goes on for what, an hour 45, is it? Something like
Uh,
that.
94 minutes and 54 seconds, so an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, so okay, so just over an hour and a half. I don't know what else happened in that hour and a half. Like the
Yeah.
hour and a half vanished. Like we've
Yep.
talked on this show before about like Fury Road is a 3 hour movie that feels like an hour movie.
Hmm.
And then Justice League is a 3 hour movie that feels like a 7 hour movie, like
Uh-huh.
that kind of thing. I don't know where the time went. It literally vanished. Like it just, the worst part was I was doing other stuff. So I was like, I was grocery shopping, I was doing chores, I was listening to it as I was doing these other things. And I didn't slow down on those things, but also I didn't realize how quick time flew by while I was listening to it. It was like,
Yeah.
well, there's got to be more to it. I can't be at the end of it already. And then I looked, it's like, no, that's it, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you've literally done 90 minutes and change and not even realized it.
Yeah.
It's so well paced. And then, like I said, I think the original album is a good, or the highlights album is a good album version of this, but this is a 90-minute listen through that I wouldn't have any issues listening to again because it's so quick.
What's interesting here is I just looked at the highlights version. That's 47, just shy of 48 minutes. It's 9 tracks, and it looks like it'll fit on one CD or one album. But it's interesting to see them just cut out half, just a pure half of that album to make the highlights version,
Hmm.
which shows how
Yeah,
much
and it's
music there
mostly
is.
the narration side.
Yeah. I think that shows how
But that's
much
it.
actual music there is. It's not just, like sweeping score and stuff, which there is, but, you know,
Yes.
there is a lot of music underneath a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying when I was talking about like the World War Z audiobook taken from this, because like one of the great things about the World War Z audiobook, which I'm sure we'll probably have to cover at some point, is it does that thing of like background noise and like ambient sounds and things like that,
Right.
which the music in this acts like you said, like each different form or phase of the Martians has its own motif to go with those moments.
Exactly.
Like he something I wasn't expecting, having been Hollywood washed on the more modern versions of this, was the fact that they, during the very first battle, they do destroy a tripod.
Yeah,
And then the
right,
rest of the
right.
tripods just mess up the cannons. And I'm like, well, okay, I didn't know that bit.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I think coming out of this album, I liked it way more than I was expecting to. I think it's much more of a cohesive album than I was expecting. I was expecting to come in to this and hear a a concept album. But what we
Mm-hmm.
really got was a musical, a rock opera, like a really cohesive 90-minute and change like performance thing. No wonder why this thing has been hugely popular on tour for the orchestral performances and stuff, because it really is
Yes.
just like an hour and a half long musical about like one of the most popular sci-fi books in history. So I kind of came out of this thinking like, dang, okay, like that was a really good album from something that sounds kind of silly on paper nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But you listen to it and you're like, yeah, that's a musical version of War of the Worlds. Like you nailed it. Good
Like,
job.
the really funny thing is, like, I'm not gonna lie, but if I saw, like, I- I've been I've been trying to get out the house more this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing a lot of looking for like local events.
Mm.
There's a convention coming up at the end of this month that we're recording this that I will be going to, which is like an anime convention. It's like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna
Sure.
go just because I want to go see what this little
Yeah,
indie
go check
convention
it
is
out.
like. If I was doing that kind of search and saw a performance of this nearby, because we have a lot of performance spaces nearby,
Mm-hmm.
like we're right near, like, I'm right near Buffalo, Syracuse, like there's a lot of different areas nearby with big halls that do performances. And if I saw one of these coming up, I'd be like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I'll go see that thing.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts here for the album?
It's really good.
Yeah.
And like it's on YouTube and a playlist.
Yep.
Go like go watch that stuff. Go
Mm-hmm.
listen to it. Like I'm pretty sure you could probably get it on like Bandcamp Fridays for like 2 cents these days.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was incredibly pleasantly surprised with this. Will probably check out the highlights version at some point, because I feel like if I wanted to go listen to anything from this album, I would probably just want to sit down for an hour and a half while I'm like sorting something or doing some like programming work or something.
It's a great laundry song too. Like
Yeah.
folding laundry.
Yep.
Like
But if I want to just listen to like one of the tracks or something, I'll probably check out the highlights version of just like, all right, just want to listen to like Forever Autumn again. I'm just gonna listen to that version of that album. So at least you have
the
options.
real thing for me is that's the song that kicked this whole thing off.
Mm-hmm.
Was someone okay, note to self, talk about this in the pre-show how a GIF having sound bothers me,
Uh-huh.
but somebody put a GIF of the live musical performance, and it was the Forever Autumn
Mm-hmm.
one, and it's like, oh, that's the song that kicked off my remembrance of this, which kicked off the whole conversation about this
Right.
season as a whole.
Right.
And like Forever Autumn's a banger, man. It's a
Oh, yeah.
genuine banger.
100%. All right. Speaking of bangers, you should stick around for next episode. We're going to cover probably the thing you think we would cover next if we're going backwards through time. We got 2 episodes left, so you can probably guess both of those, and you'd probably be right. So hopefully you'll join us for both of those. We'll see you next time. Bye.
It took all my effort to not make a gambling website joke, by the way,
Yep.
to go place your bets on the 2 things we're doing next.
That's right.
But yes, goodbye.